And so I decided to go ahead and brew this as an ale. Okay, I've picked up a pack of Saf Ale US05. Really clean, not quite as clean as the liquid versions of these Chico yeast, but a really clean, excellent fermenter. It ferments dry down to 1010, 1009 sometimes, without a problem. 6 gallons, properly hydrated at 1044, 1045, which is the gravity that I'm told I will reach, not just by the can, but also by what I plugged into Beer Tools, which is my brewing software. This is plenty of yeast to brew this batch of beer. Okay, we're going to properly rehydrate this. I also don't really know how hoppy this beer is. And so I've seen a lot of videos where guys are kind of doing some spice additions, or they're doing some hop additions in a boil while they're heating up their malt extract, especially they're doing these kits all malt, to enhance the flavor and aromatic qualities of the beer. And because I like a bit hoppier of a beer, and I do really enjoy Pilsner, and I actually enjoy Blondels quite a bit when they're done well, I'm going to head to, and I'm going to do that as well. So I've got an ounce of fresh Hallertau leaf hops. Okay, these are German Hallertau, 4.1 alpha acid. I'm going to boil these for 10 minutes along with the 3.3 pounds of liquid malt extract and the 1 pound of dry malt extract and about 1.5 gallons or so of water. And that's going to give me not much bitterness because it's kind of a low alpha acid hop. We're not boiling it for very long, but it will it will extract through the boil a good amount of the nice noble hop character that would be in these hops. And so this will hopefully give me somewhere close to what would be maybe a Bohemian Pilsner, but we're going to do it with ale yeast. So let's just call this an American style blonde ale, or blonde ale in general if you don't like the American designation. So I'm going to leave you guys for just a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take this upstairs, this pot here, my spoon, the dry malt extract, liquid malt extract, and my hops. The hops will go in a hop bag. I'm going to bring that to a boil for 10 minutes, and then we'll get on with the rest of the video. I'll show you guys a quick overview. I may not talk much during this portion of it because there's a couple guys that have covered the process really, really well. Craig Tube comes to mind. Please check out his channel, Craig Fairway. He is a really, really nice guy, and he really makes some interesting videos, and he does his take on brewing. He does a lot of these kits very well, at least from what I see. I've never gotten a chance to taste them, but he seems very confident and very knowledgeable about the process in which he takes to brew these kits. So, like I said, I might put some screen overlays talking about the process or a thought, but I may not talk much while you're just looking at this boil with some hops in it. So I'm going to grab my beer and my equipment, take it upstairs, and I will see you guys in literally just a second for you, and in about 10 minutes for me. Cheers. I think it's time for another beer while we finish up our brew day. This is Buffalo IPA from Flying Bison Brewing Company. Never had this beer. Friend brought it to me. Give that a check. While we finish out this batch. Now, as you guys just saw, we boiled some Hallertau hops for 10 minutes. I used 1.5 gallons of water total with the 3.3 pounds of liquid malt extract, the 1 pound of dry malt extract. I also showed this can sitting in some 140 degree really hot tap water that sat there the entire time I was bringing water up to temperature during the process of boiling the hops, and then just now until I took it downstairs. So It's been in that hot water for, let's say, around 25 minutes or so. And like I put in the video, I have 2 pots. This smaller pot, I used just a little bit of the wort that came out of the bigger pot, and that's to rinse the can out. Okay, no hops got added to that portion of the boil. I just need that to rinse the rest of the residual sugars, flavors that came in the actual kit itself. So we'll get to it in just one second. Smells like nice grapefruit, distinctive American kind of piney, citrusy character. Really clear, nice and amber. That's a really tasty beer. Thanks to my buddy Steve for that one. Alright, so before I went upstairs and just after I shut the camera off, I also sanitized this entire fermenter using Star San. It got several spray downs, and I just want to empty out the rest of the sanitizer. I have a drain in my kegerator, so it makes things kind of convenient for pouring things out. That's good there. So, fermenter, clean and sanitized. We've got the 3.3 pounds of liquid malt extract, 1 pound of dry malt extract, boiled for 10 minutes, 1 ounce of Hallertau hops, went in there, boiled the entire 10 minutes. And now we're going to take our sanitized can opener. I'm going to spray the top of this can. Get away from my beer. There we go. Chop this guy open. You know, the one thing I will say that is good about these kits, as far as, you know, with limited experience, just from what I see, is that they're readily available for a lot of folks. And, you know, so far they haven't been much of a hassle, even in terms of guys, you know, that are doing the extra steps. So the lid kind of fell in there, but I'm just going to take it and pour it in. There we go. Yeah, the weight of it just kind of brought the lid open. Real thick, real syrupy there. My spoon is still sanitized. Pop it open just a little bit more if we can. There we go. Perfect. Let that drip for a second. Now, one of the other things, you know, I kind of hinted on before, but I wanted to reiterate was, guys, be honest with yourself when you buy some of these kits. If they're calling for an original gravity of 1040, then you're probably not brewing an IPA. You might be brewing a pretty hoppy beer, or what they're calling kind of a really hoppy beer, but stylistically and according to the guidelines that have been set up, you're really not. You're brewing actually more, you know, in the case of like a Cooper's, more of like an English bitter. And that's fine, you know, unless you're adding more malt or something like that to get to that alcohol level, and then substituting some extra flavor and aroma hops, perhaps dry hops, something like that. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. Just once again, you know, be honest with yourself. When you do that, you're going to find that you're going to get a lot less hassle on the various YouTube channels and from other brewers when you're like, yeah, you know, I know it's not an IPA perfectly, but you know, the kit tastes really good, and I enjoy it, and I made it myself. And you know, who's going to fault you for that? You know, that's what this is all about, is making beer how you want to make it, making it taste how you want it to taste, as best as you can taste, and sharing it with your family and friends and other people that also enjoy it. You know, I think that's one of the greatest things about home brewing, aside from the beer itself, is, you know, the experience you get from sharing it with people. I got a little bit mess on the back of the can, probably a rookie mistake. So I've got that smaller pot of really hot wort. Bring that on over. It's still steaming. Luckily the handle is cool, and hopefully I don't spill it, so I'm actually going to hold it over the fermenter. But maybe you guys can see that, maybe you can. It is steaming, so I'm not going to hold on to this for very long. Well, and I just guessed on that, but I managed to get it just the right amount. So let's set that down there. Let's see what it tastes like, actually. Really good. Kind of a mix of like a Lyle's golden syrup and honey. Just a little bit of bitterness. Let's give this some good stirring action. Get all of what we can out of there. Alright, and while that sits, let's pour our hopped wort, billow of steam. Let's go ahead and pour that into our fermenter. Give that a good stir. We should just about be ready to start topping this off with some cold filtered water. Okay. Smells great. Love Hallertau hops. Noble spice. Just like a slight twang of mellow citrus on the back end. All empty. Set that down, clean that up later. While that's sitting there, let's give this another good stir. And I know some of you guys right now are thinking, wow, you're going to put a 6-gallon batch into a 6.5 to the tip-top fermenter. Yes, I predominantly do brew 6-gallon batches, and I use blow-off tubes. And I mostly use carboys. I have a lot of 6.5-gallon carboys. For this batch I don't, but a blow-off tube is fine, and I didn't want to pay the, see around here with a lid, it's around $31 to $32 for one of the 7.9-gallon wine fermenters that some of you guys utilize. That to me is pretty expensive. I'm all for brewing great beer on the cheap. I know some of you other guys are too, and so hopefully you understand why I've chosen just to go with this particular fermenter. So that's looking really hot. As you guys can see, if you've never brewed these kits, they are pretty easy so far. I haven't had any bit of trouble, and that's not just because I've brewed before. This is actually, you know, kind of got me thrown for a loop a little bit because, like I said, I don't brew these, so you know, it's fun. The process itself is still fun, and it's even more fun because I've never done it before. All right, I think that's pretty good. Gloves on. Try and pour it down the lid and see if I can get as much of this off as possible. Yeah, good and clean except a little bit on the lid. I'm not that worried about it. Alright, find a good place to set that. One of the things I didn't say before that I was going to use, and you guys will probably need to use, is a thermometer. And I happen to have just a simple lab thermometer. It comes standard in a lot of kits. Northern Brewer, I think this is the standard thermometer, and this is also about the same price around here as like your simple floating thermometer, 10 or 12 inch floating thermometer. So that's what I'm going to use once I get this topped up with water. My water right now is coming out about 78 degrees, and I know that this temperature is really hot, so I'm probably not going to get it perfectly down to temperature right now. If I hadn't just decided to do this video because I got a chance on sort of a whim, I was actually trying to prolong it, I would have bought all water jugs or filtered water, and I'd had a lot of them cold. I also could have utilized my little wort chiller to chill all this down, but I'm trying to do this kind of like a lot of other folks go ahead and brew their beer and not get too fancy with equipment and stuff like that. Oh man, that's a really tasty IPA. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and dump this first gallon. I've got 1.5 gallons in here. This will make 2.5 gallons in our fermenter. This is cold and filtered and clean. Came straight out of the copper pipe that comes off of my water filter setup. No hose water or green hose, non-potable hose water for my brewing. Excellent. Well, as opposed to me running back and forth and you guys just waiting for me to come back on camera to get these jugs of water to fill this back up, I'm just going to fill this up to the 6-gallon mark, and I'll be back with you guys with some closing thoughts and you know, finish the rest of this beer. So be right back with you.